All right, well, I think we're going to get started. Have a seat. Hello, everybody. If we can get started. We've got a great program today, and our advancement team has us on a tight schedule, so we're going to stick to this minute by minute. I'm Chris Gladwin. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here. I also started a company here way back in 2004, 2005 called Cleversafe. A lot of you guys know about that, and that's really where I developed a great relationship with the school. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about technology. In particular, we have a special guest here, Judson Althoff, who's joining us here from Seattle. He's going to talk about some reflections on his life, his time as a student here, his career path, including how did he go from being a student here to one of the most influential sales executives in the world. We're also going to talk a little bit about his views on the future of the global and national technology industry. We'll have some time for questions at the end. And then I think Betsy Hughes is going to talk to us a little bit about Judson, and President Cramb will present him with the Alumni Association's Professional Achievement Award. So just some preliminary introductory information. Judson graduated from Illinois Tech in 1995 with a degree in mechanical engineering. I also have a degree in mechanical engineering, so we have that in common. He serves as an executive vice president for Microsoft, where he leads 25,000 employees. How do you do that? How do you manage 25,000 employees? When we talk about that, in the worldwide commercial business organization, a team which helps organizations harness technology to improve performance through digital transformation. Previously, Judson was president of Microsoft North America and held several executive positions at Oracle and EMC corporations. We might talk about that because I used to compete with EMC Corporation. He has hosted an alumni gathering in his home and serves on the Illinois Tech Computer Science Advisory Board with me and a bunch of other folks. He's involved in Free the Children We Day events and leads Microsoft initiatives to better society through technology. He has also received the Phoenix Award from the City of Atlanta for opening a Microsoft Innovation Center that provides software coaching and grants to women entrepreneurs. Despite all this wonderful stuff, it's important for me to remind you all that Judson is speaking to us today not as a representative of Microsoft, but as an alumnus of Illinois Tech. So please help me welcome Judson here to the stage. All right, so the first question I have, and actually this is interesting for me too, because not only were we mechanical engineers on our undergraduate degrees, but we're both from Ohio. I'm from outside of Columbus. You're from Worcester. And so, and there's a nice college in your town of Worcester.
There is.
So why did you end up coming here? How did you pick Illinois Tech?
So good question. By the way, thank you for the introduction. Humbling and sort of kind of makes me feel old, but we'll come to that a little bit later.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. So I chose IIT, frankly, because I was interested in math and science. My mom was a high school calculus teacher in my hometown, which basically meant that I had to take math from someone else throughout my entire high school career.
And you had to really understand it, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. My mom had an opinion on my grades just about every turn. So the other guy who taught math in my tiny little town of 25,000 people was a guy named Dr. Fraunfelder, who had his mechanical engineering degree. And so I learned calculus through an engineer and was really passionate about it. And I chose IIT because when I looked at the landscape of engineering schools that were out there, not only was IIT one of the best, but frankly, it was one within my grasp.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of means to go to college. Financially, Chicago from where I lived was about as far as my mom would let me go. And it was conveniently far enough away that I could tell when she was coming to visit, yet close enough if I needed to get home, I could. But in the end, to me, it was a blessing to be able to come to an institution like IIT because I knew I was going to get a fantastic education, and I knew that I would have a support network for being able to afford it. IIT had a great cooperative program, and so I was able to go out to Fermilab every other semester and earn enough money to come back and spend it here and then go back again. So it was humbled and honored to be able to come here.
So your mom was a teacher, and how did that influence you? I mean, were you like a total nerdy kid that studied all the time?
Well, so yeah, I guess so. That's probably a good description of things. She not only was a calculus teacher, but she was also the high school debate coach. In fact, at the time she passed away 10 years ago, she was the only high school coach to ever make it to the High School Coaches Hall of Fame and not be an athletic coach. And so she was pretty good at what she did. And that translated into pretty difficult conversations if I ever wanted to leave the house. Like if I wanted to go on a date on a Friday night, I had to be able to debate the affirmative and the negative to get out of the house, as well as make sure that my calculus grades were perfect. Yeah. So those two things were pretty tall orders.
Yep. I mean, what else, when you look back on yourself now, and you look back as kind of a high school student, what else do you see in you then that really informs how you are now?
It's a good question. I think if there's one thing that's pervasive, it's work ethic, which, you asked the question about my mother. Probably the single biggest thing she left behind for me was this notion that the harder you work, the luckier you get. And through hard work, great things come. And you can't always guarantee that if you work hard, great things will happen, but it's pretty hard to conceive great things without hard work. Yeah. And so I was blessed from an early age to have that kind of ingrained into my skull. Sometimes it was a little less of a fun experience than I wanted it to be when I was in high school, but it led to a great practical experience here because it certainly took a lot of hard work and dedication to get through IIT and to get through it successfully. And it, to me, I believe, is the foundation for everything I do today.
Yeah. So how did you make that transition then? You came here, BS in mechanical and aerospace, and then it seemed like, did you go into sales right away, but it seemed pretty early in your career that you moved into kind of sales and management.
That's
How did
right.
you make that transition?
Well, yeah, so I'll tell you the story, and the message that I want to basically leave for everyone is that the opportunity that sits in front of you may not always be that obvious, but if you lean into it and put everything you have into it with passion and recognizing that your most valuable asset is time, because once you spend it, you'll never get it back. So if you're going to choose to do something, you do it as well as you can. Really fueled my transition from my engineering background into the role that I have even today. And so the story goes a little bit like this. I did just about everything at IIT that one could do. And if you're still a student here, I would encourage you to do the same. Because this place can provide you with just fantastic opportunity. Not only are the professors amazing, not only is the curriculum exceptionally strong, and you will get out of it what you put into it, but the student life here and the programs that are at your fingertips are really something that you should grasp. So I was fortunate enough to be a part of Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity. I was president of the fraternity. I joined student government, ran student government as president for 3 terms, ran the radio station for a while, started my own student organization, was a big part of student life here on campus, and I took everything that IIT could throw at me because I felt like it was a big part of my learning. I'm here. I'm going to live in the present, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can, also while going back and forth and working at Fermilab. So I had amassed, I guess, what was a pretty good-looking college graduate resume. I graduated with a 4.0 from IIT. I had all of this work experience at Fermilab. I was running all of these student organizations on campus. I thought, well, gosh, I should surely get a great engineering job offer. After all, I put all of this time and hard work and effort into it. And the reality of the situation is I graduated in '95 at a time where Boeing had just bought McDonnell Douglas, so the aerospace engineering was consolidating, not growing. Yep. The auto industry was on yet another downturn, and there weren't a lot of jobs there, although I did get an offer to join the Saturn car company, which in retrospect was a pretty good bullet dodged. So I get like 2 engineering job offers after all of this hard work and effort, and about 30 computer science job offers. And I'm like, I don't get it. I had a Mac when I was going to school, which now is sort of cool, but was definitely back then not very cool. And the only reason why I had that is because it's what the Department of Energy used at Fermilab. I knew how to program Fortran and ANSYS, but I certainly didn't know C or Java or anything reasonably cool at that time. So I thought, why am I getting all of these computer science job offers? But honestly, you got to kind of take what life gives you. I had a young family on the way. I needed a job, and so I joined a Canadian startup software company that basically took old mainframe systems, COBOL-based mainframe and Unix systems and AS400 systems, and bolted internet front ends onto them, which I'm sure to all of you sounds horrendous right now, but at the time was a pretty cool concept. Like, how can you internet enable the world's back-end systems? And so I crawled all over mainframes and AS400s and Unix machines and dove into this job and taught myself how to program. Faked it along the way a few times because I got dumped into projects that I didn't have the qualifications to run. But I was like a sponge. I learned everything I possibly could about it. And then I started thinking, well, gosh, because for a while there, for a couple of years, I always thought, well, I'll do this for a little while, but gosh darn it, I want to go build airplanes or cars, and so I want to get back to my engineering roots. And it became pretty clear the way the job market was going to go. And so I decided, you know what, if I'm going to be in this high-tech thing, I want to be working for a company that can actually move the needle. So I started calling headhunters, which was interesting because they kind of said, hey, listen, dude, you might not know how this works, but we call you, not the other way around. No, you don't understand. This is like, I've decided now, this is what I want to do, so I need you to get me an interview with either IBM, Microsoft, or Oracle. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever, dude. And a lot of people hanging up on me at the time. So to net it out, I called this one poor guy so many times that he finally said, listen, if I get you one interview, will you promise to never, ever call me ever again? Thought about that one for a little while. I said, sure, fine, get me the interview. And so he got me an interview to answer the phones at Oracle here in Chicago. And I thought, okay, wow, valedictorian in my class, mechanical engineering at IIT, with all of this background, and I'm getting a job answering the phones at Oracle. Once again, I kind of put pride in the pocket and said, this is what life's handed me right now, and I'm going to make the very best of it. And so I jumped in and answered the phones at Oracle in a little cube with 3 other guys in it, and worked my way up to being the youngest senior vice president the company had ever had. until 4 years ago, Steve Ballmer called and recruited me to come run Microsoft North America. So,
You know, I'm listening to this, and what's running through my head is you might be cut out for sales if, and a few things come to mind. You're calling headhunters, and they're not wanting to take your call. Like, that would be one. You might be cut out for sales and success if, you know, you take a job at Oracle, answering phones in a cube, and then work your way up. I mean, those are signs. And it seems like another sign was you might be cut out for sales if when you're in college, you're like president of all these things. Like, you're just finding yourself doing things that involve building lots of relationships with people.
I think that's all true, but I really do credit IIT with so much of that. And I look at all of you out there, and I look at some whom I would assume to be students, and I really hope that you grasp that opportunity, because this place teaches you so much. There's the fundamentals that you learn here can certainly be used to help go build airplanes and build cars, and if that's your passion, please go do it, or build the next smart building, or frankly, write the next line of code that changes the technology industry. Go do those things. But the other thing that it teaches you how to do is solve incredibly complex problems and work across groups of different diverse backgrounds and solve problems that frankly people tell you can't solve. That's what this place teaches you how to do. And look, there'll come a day when you're not the best programmer anymore and your differential equations aren't quite what they used to be. But those fundamentals of how you problem solve, how you work together, how you collaborate for a greater end, those will stick with you. And that's what IIT taught me.
All right, so going forward, you know, it's hard to predict things. But if you were to think about, like, you know, I would guess a lot of what you've had in your career is not only kind of seeing the inside of Microsoft and what's going on there, and it really is a part of creating the future, but also you're now interacting with all these enterprises in terms of, like, you know, what's Boeing doing and what's, you know, 100 other massive companies and, you know, not just in size, but in terms of what the impact they're going to have on the world. So you probably have a pretty good insight into where technology is going.
Yep.
You know? So given that, do you have a sense of, like, some of the areas that you see coming in the future that are really going to be impactful, that might be interesting for, you know, students today to consider?
Totally. So you mentioned in my my corporate bio up front this thing called digital transformation, and it's starting to become a bit of an industry buzz term, if you will. A lot of people are talking about it. So let me define it first in some simple words and talk about why I think it actually represents the biggest opportunity, not only of today, but probably for the next decade or so, relative to where we'll certainly be hiring talent, and frankly, where a lot of other companies will be as well. So digital transformation, simply put, is a new wave of business innovation that's fueled by cloud technologies like artificial intelligence and augmented reality and data science. And the reason why I think it is actually really fascinating for this audience is because it is the fusion of computer science and engineering. It is the notion of digitizing a body of work or digitizing an entire company to bring on the next wave of innovation for that company. Whether it be re-envisioning customer engagement scenarios, optimizing operations, or frankly, actually transforming products. And let me give you some examples, because we're doing these types of projects from aerospace to agriculture right now. And I find them to be very fascinating because we're just at the very beginning of this next curve of innovation. And like, if you thought the .com thing was big or the cloud thing was big, this digital thing is going to be massive. Because there's a digital opportunity for just about every company in every industry right now. So in the agriculture space, we've been doing a lot of work with a company called Land O'Lakes. And when I say Land O'Lakes, you say? Yeah, thank you very much. So I was telling the story to a few of the senior leaders here at IIT this morning, so forgive the redundancy. So how do you digitize butter, and what the heck does technology have to do with butter? Well, turns out Land O'Lakes is actually owned by a cooperative of farmers, and they service farms across America. Yes, they have a massive dairy business, and that's what you and I know to be the most popular aspects of their brand, but they also provide feed and seed and services to farming communities across the United States. So when we started working with them, they said, hey, listen, so how would we reinvent or re-envision a company like Land O'Lakes? We started looking at their data assets and the information that they had about their company. And you start to actually understand that the information about the company is actually worth more than the company itself. Because over the years, they've amassed decades worth of satellite imagery of all of the farms that they service across the United States. So we took that and put it into a massive data lake in the cloud, in Microsoft's cloud, we call Azure. And on top of that, put an artificial intelligence layer, a learning fabric on top of the data so that we could actually study soil propensity down to a 1 square meter plot of land. So we could decide what hybrid seed and how much of it and what kind of soil treatment would produce the most amount of output in that given piece of dirt. The net of it is that we then took that prescription, if you will, and downloaded it into semi-autonomous tractors made by John Deere, and can variably plant a field with this hybrid prescription of seed. The outcome is what's fascinating. So the batting average for an acre of land today is about 130 bushels of corn per acre. We can, with this technology, produce 500 bushels of corn on the same acre of land using the technology. So, like, what does that take? Yeah, you've got to know how to code. You've got to know data science. But you also have to know a thing or two about industrial design and engineering in order to create a solution from end to end. I could sit here for the next 3 days and tell you stories from the connected car through to aerospace and digital aviation, through to what we're doing in shipping and logistics and smart ports and smart cities. And I will tell you that almost every scenario fuses together the very curriculum that you have at your fingertips here at IIT, from engineering disciplines through to computer science disciplines. So this is a rich, rich opportunity for all of you to lean in and grasp. And I would strongly encourage this notion of interdisciplinary study. Take a tour of classes in engineering, take a tour of duty in computer science. Natasha was telling me about this new computational engineering program, which I just think is fantastic, because digital will drive the growth of all companies in all industries, from healthcare to agriculture to aerospace, for the next foreseeable future.
You know, it seems like one of the things, the butter story is a great story because to a great degree, for the past decades, technology has been either like an industry unto itself or kind of a department in a company. And the big change now is it's now everywhere. If it's in butter,
that's right.
It's everywhere. And so, one of the cool things then, if you have that kind of technology base, career-wise, you can get into agriculture or logistics or transportation or whatever, because it seems like that's the big change. Technology has moved. It's a big move, so it doesn't happen overnight, from a separate thing to like the fabric of all business.
That's right.
Any innovator, any growth company, any leader, if they're not a leader in technology, they're just not in the game.
That's right.
And it seems like that butter observation kind of perfectly sums that up. And so I assume like you just see that everywhere. Like
that's right.
Every company. And
Yep.
It's not like you're just meeting with the computer guy.
That's right.
You're meeting with like core business, right?
Yeah. Well, my wife Laura and I had dinner with a gentleman named Christoph Beck last night, who's president of Nalco Water. It's an Ecolab company now, but they're a big company out in Naperville here. And it's a fascinating journey. In fact, almost ironic timing that we were coming to this event today, because I used Nalco products when I was out at Fermilab as a co-op engineering student. We bought like water valves and piping for the cooling of the accelerator ring out at Fermilab. And their business through this digital wave has evolved so much. I mean, they used to basically sell parts. Now Christoph is leading a mission to sell clean water as a service, to drive solving the world's problem of water scarcity. And it goes a little something like this. Once again, it starts with an IoT scenario. We have basically sensor-enabled every product that they sell, built a gigantic data lake that senses and learns and reasons over water consumption of all of the companies that they serve across industry. From there, we can prescribe, once again, how you drive down water utilization. And the facts are just stunning. Like, it takes 30,000 gallons of water to make a car. It takes 40 gallons of water to make a case of beer. It takes almost 100 gallons of water to create a cheeseburger by the time you've planted the field, taken care of the cow, done everything you have to do in manufacturing and producing food product. So we will run out of water. Just at current course and speed, we will run out of water. And through this digital wave, we're empowering Nalco and Ecolab to help solve the world's problems of water scarcity. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record. What does it take to solve those problems? Well, frankly, everything you're learning right here. It takes engineering skill. It takes a solid command of computer science and a solid command of data science to be able to go solve these problems. So they exist today. The opportunities and the challenges exist today. We're super passionate and humbled, frankly, to have the opportunity to work on them.
You know, the next thing I think is interesting is not just that, like, technology is happening, but let's talk a little bit about the pace of that. It seems like human nature is one where you kind of want to feel like, okay, I got through that change.
Yep.
So, like, Microsoft to a great degree was the company that kind of brought personal computing to the world. It was this transformational thing, and then there was a lot of change, and people dealt with it, and then like, oh, okay, I got through that.
Yep.
And then boom, here comes the internet. Here comes mobile telephony. Here comes social networking. And in some ways, there's just more and more profound change, and you kind of, humans seem to like want to say, all right, okay, got through that, now we're done with the change. But on the other hand, you know, there's Moore's law, and there's like, it's not that the change is linear and flat.
Yep.
It's not that it's linear and growing. It's accelerating. You know,
That's
so
right.
it seems like I would assume kind of your view, kind of, you know, with that perspective of seeing what every company is doing from water to aircraft manufacturing, and Microsoft. It seems like even though it's our nature to think, oh, there's no way this is accelerating because that's just so much change. I don't know if I can handle it.
Yeah.
But it's really going to accelerate.
You bet.
Right?
You bet. Well, and the other thing is that it's, I think as you pointed out, it's pervasive. I think it took me a long time to get my head around that, certainly in my career. I mean, you go through change and you think, well, okay, as soon as I get past this point in October, things will settle down.
I know that,
right?
things will settle down thing. That's the biggest lie.
Like the only thing that's constant is change.
Right.
Right? And the sooner that you actually not only accept it, but embrace it, I think that's when the real learning starts to occur. I mean, we've culturally been through a lot of that at Microsoft over the last 3 years because we're kind of trying to reinvent the company altogether. And you know, one of the things that our CEO, Satya Nadella, who is not only my boss, but I envy a lot, I think he's a fantastic human being, that he preaches this notion of having a growth mindset, which is this fundamentally this belief that all potential can be nurtured and that we are all fundamentally unfinished. And that if you recognize that you're unfinished and rather look at that as somehow some sort of a flaw in character, but rather something that is just common across human beings and embrace it, that's when you can truly learn and learn without limits. And so I think of myself as an unfinished leader. I don't want to be finished the day they put me in the ground because, you know, who would want to be finished? What's the point in all of that? I think one of the most beautiful things about being a human being is learning. And so if you can embrace change and think of it as an opportunity. That to me is the secret spice of life.
So then is that like a part of the advice you would give to, students today? Like,
Totally.
You have to learn how to learn. You have to learn how to embrace change. Because
That's right.
That's what it's going to be.
That's right. And I would say that, look, I'll bring it back to very real world right now. Like the company I joined, Microsoft, 4 years ago is so different than the company that we're running today. It barely resembles. As you pointed out, the original thesis of the company is let's put a PC on every desk. Look, the total addressable market assumed by Microsoft was the world's PCs and servers, and we kind of went around attaching software to the same. And look, to be fair, it was a good business. Yeah. But all of the scenarios I just shared with you today have very little, if anything, to do with that business. And so why does that matter based on the question you asked? Well, look, the type of people that we can hire at Microsoft to go do this work are the people that have learned how to learn.
Yep.
If all they have done is learned a skill,
yep.
well, the skill will age.
Especially in technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So then I guess how would you counsel students today? I mean, how do you know? How do you really take advantage of that in a university setting? Does that mean you should take a class that you feel uncomfortable with, or do something that you're not sure about?
Yeah, practice the things you stink at. Yeah. I mean, that's how you get better. Really, seriously, I've tried to have a few hobbies in life that keep me humble. For a long while, I was doing triathlons, and as you might guess, I am not built like an athlete. So kind of not good at them, and I was not a very good runner, not a very good swimmer, and not a very good cyclist. But somehow when you put all three of them together, I was kind of reasonably mediocre at the three of them, and it kind of worked out. But the trainer I worked with was like, listen, you are really not great at swimming in the ocean. So I don't care how much you want to run every day. Go practice that and practice the things you stink at. Today I'm trying to learn how to fly after all these years getting back to aerospace.
Yeah.
My flight instructor is like, look, it's interesting, guys. This guy's worked for Boeing for 40 years, and he was taught by World War II pilots. He's kind of a hard ass, if you will. He's like, so look, you need to be able to land in the wind, the rain, the fog, crosswinds, and we're going to practice the things that are hard. And you sort of look at him and you're like, well, listen, I got news for you. When my wife and I want to go fly somewhere, if it's bad outside, we're just probably not going to go. Yeah. And he's like, that's not the point. I want to prepare you for things that you'll never encounter, so in case you do, you'll know how to handle them. But then also that in everyday life, the normal things will seem easy. Yeah. And that, I think that's also a part of what I learned here. I was great to catch up with Paco Ruiz earlier before this session began, and I told him, I said, listen, your class was one of my favorites. In fact, it was so great to finally have my wife meet him, because I've told stories about Paco for years in my household, mostly when I was raising my kids, about the importance of their work. And so Paco taught a pretty hard thermodynamics class. I had him for thermo and advanced thermo, and not only would he'd give you problems that were pretty hard to solve, afterwards he would grade you on neatness. Paco, the thing was hard enough to do in the first place. You're now going to turn around and critique my handwriting. So I would literally lie there on the floor of my room until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning after having solved the problem, and rewrite it all. So that I felt like it would look good enough for Paco. Yeah. So I guess the message there, beyond the reminiscence, is embrace the things that are hard. Push yourself beyond the things you think you can do, and you'll just be so much better off in life, because the regular things will seem easy, and when the hard things come by, you will have seen it before, and you'll know how to handle them.
And is there a lesson in that in the triathlons? Because triathlons are kind of by definition not easy.
Yep.
And how important is kind of toughness and persistence in career?
Yeah, super hard, and I'm glad you brought it up. Like, if people, like if I get the interview question, like that I'm sure you guys will all be getting here if you're graduating soon, of like, give me 3 words that describe who you are, and you have to actually just pick 3 words, which, as you can tell from my Q&A here, I'm not really good at being brief. The 3 words I'd use to describe myself would be inspire, excellence, and perseverance.
Yep.
And that perseverance, there's a reason why it's last, because you saved the best for last, and it's the most important thing. Persevering. Look, I mean, for as well as I did here, there were moments where I would look up and go, is this going to be my wall? Is, Dr. Tao's class, or Hassan Naguib, or Paco's class, or, gosh, I don't know who's still else here, but, you would meet these professors and you knew they were going to test you, and you would ask yourself, is this going to be my wall?
Yep.
Is this going to finally be my limit? And you really do have to look yourself in the mirror and go, gosh darn it, no, it's not. I will persevere through this.
Well, there's a reason why they call work.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's hard work. And, often the winner is the guy that outworks everyone else.
Yeah.
Whether that's career advancement or closing a sale. And it seems like that's a part of college too. Like,
Yep.
we're going to teach you to work hard.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. A healthy sense of paranoia is good too. We used to have do you all still have the curse of the L here?
The curse of the
Now I'm going to inject a whole lot of worry into all of you. So we used to have the curse of the L when I was here, and if you got stuck walking underneath the L while it passed over, it would be 1/10 of a point off your GPA for that quarter. And like, I was not a very superstitious kind of guy when I was here, but I got to tell you, when I got towards that last semester and I had a 4.0, I was like, I'm going to wait for the train to go by. But, so yeah, hard work, effort, perseverance, all very simple things to say, hard things to do, but
Excellent.
they work.
All right, I think we have time now for questions. So if you have a thought, raise your hand. It's not that big of an auditorium. Anything else you want us to talk about? Any other questions? Yep. Donna.
Was your wife working outside the house when you left your good-paying job to go be the receptionist?
No, actually, she wasn't. We had a young daughter and another one on the way, so it was quite a gamble.
And did you move though for Oracle at some point in there, or right away?
We did. I started at Oracle here in Chicago and then moved out to the Silicon Valley, and moved back actually for a little while, and that's when I worked at EMC here in Chicago. And then eventually spent 15 years out in the Silicon Valley.
And now you're in Seattle.
That's right.
So I'm just curious quickly, how have you felt like the cultural difference of, because you had the Chicago, Silicon Valley, and Seattle.
Yeah.
Did anything stand out?
There's a lot of rain in Seattle.
Yeah, that's what stands
It's
out.
dark and gray.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's a fantastic place to live. No, so I guess what stood out is I don't know, for a while there, I kind of kept moving to places with increasing intensity. Like I said, I grew up in a small town in Ohio. I mean, you could fit the whole city in like one corner of Comiskey Park. And so moving to Chicago was like, wow, it's this enormous, overwhelming thing. And I can remember feeling like it was super expensive to live here. And then I moved to the Silicon Valley. And the equation was like half as much for twice as much. Yeah. I sold my home in Naperville and bought a place that was half the size for twice as much in Belmont, California. And my little girl, who was like 6 years old at the time, walks into her bedroom and says, "Dad, how can they call this a room? There's no room in it." And I was like, "Thanks, Beck. This is the most expensive thing I've ever bought in my life. I appreciate the encouragement." But so just bigger and like crazier as time went on, and then darker and rainier in the last couple of years.
All right, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Talk about the digitization of industries like that, but it seems like education was built for industrialization. How are we going to revamp K through 12 and even universities to be better prepared for that digitization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're working a lot, not only as a company in education, but my wife and I work with a charity organization called We.org. Originally it was called Free the Children. I think they have a presence here in Chicago. And it's all about empowering and enabling students. And look, it is, I'll just say it this way, it is a journey, not a destination. We have a long way to go to bring a digital education experience to reality, to empower kids from all backgrounds to have the same kind of opportunity that every child should have. So it's going to take a technology investment. It's going to take probably policy work with state and local governments. And it's going to take, I think, fluidity and continuity between K through 12 environments and collegiate environments to make sure that the learning process actually lines up with how we want to generate the future's workforce. I feel like there are a lot of things that go untaught, still go untaught, that as a society we're going to have to work on together. Sadly, there's no perfect answer for this one. There's a lot of work ahead. So we're trying to take the technology aspects of it and make it easier for everybody to consume the content. The digitization of content certainly helps, but that won't be it. It'll take more than that. So kind of a long-winded answer for you, but we're all going to have to buckle up and be a part of it.
Excellent. Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's the first time I realized those two numbers were the same.
That's really, you're managing your
that's
town.
That's actually interesting, the way
Yeah.
you think about it. Well, listen, I think, to be fair, I don't manage 25,000 people directly. I have a lot of help. I have a lot of great leaders who work for me, some of them who are sitting in the front row here. But you really do have to do a couple of things well as a leader. I kind of have 5 things in my leadership toolkit. The first is leading by example. These guys can keep me honest on this, but there's not a thing that I'll ask my people to do or my leaders to do that I wouldn't gladly roll up my sleeves and do alongside. I think that's super important because, like as you mentioned earlier, Chris, you sort of get to this world where you think about, oh, well, I'm going to reach this moment where suddenly I'm going to kind of have this like pinnacle or apex and everything's going to get easy and I'll have other people do all of these things. It's a recipe for disaster. You have to lead by example. The second thing is you have to communicate and collaborate. And it's never over. It's never done. Communication is one of those things where too much is never enough. When I lived in the Bay Area, I used to joke it was like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You get to one side and you finish and you find the paint's peeling on the other side and you have to start all over again. You have to provide clarity of focus for your people because with a massive organization, it's easy for people to get disconnected with the agenda of the company. And it's a delicate balance in that regard because on one side, like I firmly believe none of us is as smart as all of us. So you want innovation to occur everywhere within the company, but you need to harness that energy and focus it and provide clarity and energy around how you want to go and then turn around and execute. I also fundamentally believe in this notion of life cycle talent development, where you're always recruiting people. You want to surround yourself with people who are better than you are at their craft. And there's times when that can feel uncomfortable. You're like, well, hang on a minute. If I recruit a whole bunch of people who are better than me, like, am I going to not have a job someday? It may be, but if you want to build the very best team, if you want to build a team for success, you recruit the very best people, even when you're not looking for talent. Some of the very best people I've ever hired in my life, I hired, and I started trying to hire long before I even had a job opening, long before I even had a team. I can remember meeting with one guy who I eventually did hire, who's now worked for me for 10 or 12 years now, who I met with him and I had lunch and I said, listen, I want to talk to you about working for me. And the guy about spit out his food. And he said, well, you don't have a team. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, don't worry about that. Someday I will. Let me take care of that part. Let me tell you why I want you to work for me and why I want us to build a team together. So you're always recruiting, always developing talent, always presenting people with new career growth and opportunity, always making sure you're serving up the next. And it's a life cycle in that regard. Fourth thing is what I call iterative refinement. And this is probably my biggest thing, which is in providing this leadership and direction, if you sit around and wait for the perfect answer, you'll miss it. I can't tell you that 3 years from now, I wish I would have plotted a course that was 25.683 degrees east of northeast. And that's exactly where we should have gone as a company. But I can kind of tell you we got to go that way, and we got to go fast, and we're going to learn along the way, and we're going to have checkpoints and make sure we're iteratively refining our focus to get to where we need to be.
Yep.
And the final thing is what I call a commitment to excellence. The story used to be a lot better when the Oakland Raiders were a better football team because it was their story. And at one point in time, believe it or not, they were like the winningest team in all of sport. But having a commitment to excellence doesn't mean just like getting the grade this quarter or getting the GPA that you want or producing the revenue results that I demand of my folks each quarter. It actually means that higher bar element, Chris, that you spoke of earlier, which is if this is the hurdle that you have to hurdle, practice on one that's this high.
Yeah.
Practice on one that's higher than the one that you'll have to cross, and then the real work will seem easy. If you have that commitment to excellence and you instill that in your people, you'll do great things. Whether it's 2,000, 2, or 25,000, you got to inspire excellence within your people.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
I'm an alumnus perspective grad student here, and at this stage of my career, I'm interested in hearing your insights on how you rose up in Oracle, from research, from Teddy,
Yeah.
to VP.
Yeah.
So did you just ask for opportunities, and how did you sort of?
That's a great one. So the story is going to sound remarkably consistent with everything I've said here, because it has to do with taking on challenges that nobody else wants to take on. So I was answering tech support lines for developers calling in, working on the Oracle 7.3 database. I think they're up to like release 14, so it kind of dates me a little bit. And I can remember a day when a young salesperson walked back into the office after closing Oracle's first e-commerce deal. This was revolutionary back in the day. We were going to stand up an internet storefront. Was all excited about it, ran back. I mean, people were popping champagne corks, very excited. And then the energy kind of died down in the room a little bit. And he said, well, okay, so I need one of our best technical people to go up and actually install this thing and get the proof of concept up and running. And I was looking around to see who was going to do it because I had already started admiring some of the real tech rock stars in the office, and those were the people I wanted to be. And every single one of them did this. Sat on their hands, they're like, I kind of heard that product doesn't really work all that well, and like I'm not gonna put my career on that. So I raised my hand, I'll do it, and it was like the Life cereal commercial, Mikey, give it to Mikey. Mikey will eat anything. So I'll do it. I'll try that, which I still do today, and my chief of staff hates it because I sign up for more stuff than I could possibly do. So anyhow, long story short, I packed my sleeping bag in the car because I knew this was going to be a long one. Drove up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where this company was, because this was this super duper rich guy who had this wild idea of selling Green Bay Packers paraphernalia and nostalgic materials online. Once again, pretty basic today, back then pretty revolutionary. The guy had more money than he knew what to do with. So I walk in and the receptionist says, hey, Mr. Althoff, we've been waiting for you to come. I'm like, that's great. She goes, this package has come for you, and it was a FedEx envelope. All right, I get to my little desk and set up my stuff, and I open up this FedEx envelope and I dump it out, and out comes a CD with handwritten in Sharpie, Oracle Internet Commerce Server version 0.6. Like, well, the 0 is not very inspiring. And then the rest of the envelope was literally this guy's handwritten legal pad notes with like equipped, like I couldn't make this stuff up, with like pizza stains and coffee and like, here's how to install this thing and make it go. I'm like, are you kidding me? I thought I joined this big fancy Oracle company. I left this little startup Canadian software guy. I thought I'd entered the big leagues and this is how these people do this? So, long story, trust me, it's even longer than I've made it. Long story short, I got the thing working. Hadn't slept for like a week or so. I got it working, and then I get this phone call from a guy named Thomas Currian, who now actually runs all the software development at Oracle. At the time, he was running the e-commerce practice, and he said, so I heard you got this thing working. I said, yeah? And I'm like, well, you sound surprised. He's like, well, actually, yeah, we actually didn't think it would work. Would you like to come out to Redwood Shores and join our e-commerce practice?
Yeah, there you go.
Like, wow, from phone guy to e-commerce guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. So the answer is, don't be afraid to sign up for the stuff that seems hard and that nobody else wants to sign up for. Believe in yourself. If you know you can get it done, you will get it done. And that's actually when the best opportunities in life are handed to you.
Fantastic. All right, on that, that's a great close. Thank you so much. Great conversation.
Thank you. Oh, see that?
You're staying up here. I'm leaving.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Judson. What a wonderful fireside chat without a fireside. But I think I was listening to many of the things you said there, and I think it's really inspirational.
Thank you.
For our student body, for our faculty and our staff, to see that the students who come through here can go on and have such phenomenal achievement. And I think thank you for coming and spending time to do this.
Thank you for having me.
And the reason I'm here is simple, is that we had an event last Friday where Judson would have received a Professional Achievement Alumni Award, but unfortunately he couldn't come on Friday, and he's here today. So we're going to actually give the award right now. And I'm going to ask Betsy to actually read the reasons why Judson's getting this award, but actually probably not necessary after listening to everything. But anyway, we're going to do it. Betsy?
Thank you.
Thank you, President Cramb. I'm going to try to find something to say that hasn't been said already. But first, I want to thank Judson. I'd like to thank his wife, Laura, for being here with us today. Former President John Anderson, who I think had the first meeting with Judson in decades, so thanks for being here. And members of our Board of Trustees who are here, Ed Kaplan, Eric Larson, and of course, Chris Gladwin, our spectacular questioner. So thank you. I also want to acknowledge that there are some students here from the Perspectives Charter Academy, so you're also inspiring some high school kids today. All right. The Professional Achievement Award is one of 7 awards that we give in the Alumni Awards program. We honored 16 alumni on Friday. The Professional Achievement is always the hardest one to decide because we had so many wonderful nominations. But Judson was one of 3 alumni who earned this award last week. To the students, we've been writing about the Alumni Award winners in IIT Today, so I encourage you to go back and read all about them. But as you know by now, Judson earned his mechanical engineering degree from Illinois Tech in 1995 and serves as Executive Vice President of Microsoft. For all of you who are still students, think about the fact that he walked down your sidewalks, he sat in your classroom, and 22 years later, he's considered the premier computer salesperson in the world, right? Pretty cool. Growing up in Worcester, as you know, Judson was fascinated by anything that moved. His mother was a calculus teacher. His father was a surgeon who also had his pilot's license. They valued math and science, so they encouraged his own interests, even when he started taking apart the lawnmower on the front yard. Judson's high school math teacher, Dr. Fraunfelder, was the only other higher level math teacher outside of Judson's mother. And he had a doctorate in mechanical engineering. So Judson tells us that Doctor is part of what inspired him to pursue engineering at IT. And we sure are glad he did. As you know from some of these stories, he was a very active student. He was the SGA president, and of course very active with his fraternity. He received the Stryker Award 4 times. I didn't know that was possible. I wonder if they changed the rules after Judson graduated. Even started a business on campus that brought entertainers to campus, and a version of that is still alive. He gave the commencement address in 1995, and in 2015, we invited him to come back and give the address 20 years later, so that was pretty cool. Judson tells us, as you heard, that Illinois Tech nurtured his curiosity and gave him the growth mindset that served him well professionally. The leadership he showed as a student has obviously continued through his career. We are told that in some meetings at Microsoft, people view it as math camp because he tends to apply his analytical skills, of course, to every conversation, every situation in the company. The fascination that he showed with things that move has stayed with him and come full circle because he, as you hear, is getting close to getting his pilot's license. But many would say that, of course, he's been flying his entire career, and we're so glad that we were part of launching that rocket that is Judson Althoff. Congratulations on the 2017 Professional Achievement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Super fun. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
We're gonna have some formal photos. Judson, don't go. Judson, don't go. We're gonna have some formal photos. The rest of you, I know many of you want to get back to class, but if I could ask our trustees and Laura to join us for some photos, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you.